There's so many different directions we can take. There are so many different things we can say. But let's begin, Chris, with your all-time favorite NFL quarterback and the way he possibly will react to the Green Bay Packers draft for 2020, considering all the picks they had. And let's show them for the fine folks watching at home, all of the draft picks that the Green Bay Packers had. There they are. And you see the two little letters before each guy's name. That's the position that the player plays. And I would like to think that going into the draft, Aaron Rodgers was hoping for at least two of those guys to have W and R before their names. But no, not a single W, not a single R, except for the R in RB A.J. Dillon, who is not a pass-catching running back, their second-round pick. Look, Chris, between taking a potential successor for Aaron Rodgers the first night of the draft, and they moved up 4 spots and gave up their 4th-round pick to make that happen, taking a running back in round 2, taking a blocking tight end in round 3, and not a single receiver the entire 3-day effort, what's Aaron Rodgers supposed to think right now?
Well, I think he's supposed to think what he always has been thinking, which is, wow, it looks like I'll be carrying the team as usual. I mean, that's kind of what he's looking at. You know, I think, again, they've shown great confidence in his ability by the fact that they kind of cheat the support system around Aaron Rodgers at times because they know he's so talented that they go, I believe that they go, well, he'll get it done with lesser receivers. We don't need to necessarily waste all our top assets on supporting that because we think he's so great he can make it happen. Yeah, that's fine, but it's tremendous pressure on him all the time. And as we've seen, you know, when they get in certain shootouts against certain teams, a la the NFC Championship game or other things, they don't have the weaponry to keep up. So, hey, I don't know any other way to say it. The draft was troubling to me in a lot of different ways for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, one, I don't know how you could have gone through this draft and not addressed, you know, again, the run defense. I know I've been banging on the table for that, but it was 120 yards per game last year. It was 23rd in football. Almost any good offensive line that played them moved them around at will. So between, you know, not addressing some players around Aaron Rodgers and now not addressing the defense, you know, and I understand there were some other things they did well here in this draft, but I don't really get the plan of attack in general. I don't.
Yeah, to not use a single pick on a receiver almost feels like a message of sorts. And I don't want to read too much into it, but they didn't draft a single receiver, and that's what Aaron Rodgers wanted. He made the comment last week, they haven't used a first-round pick on a skill position player in 15 years, and they finally did. It just wasn't a running back, a receiver, or a tight end. It was a quarterback. And here is what Brian Gutekunst had to say in the aftermath of rounds 2 and 3, when they continued to beef up the running game. Gutekunst said, I think Matt LaFleur has talked to you guys repeatedly about how much he'd like to run the ball and have the pass work off of that. Matt really wants to tie everything to the run game and off the run game, and these guys will help us do that. And look, we saw how a potent running game can help you win single elimination contests in the NFL. That's what the 49ers did to the Packers. They ran roughshod all over the Packers. And like you said, no effort to improve the run defense, no effort to improve the passing game. And this is more of a long-term effort to improve the running game, not anything that's going to happen immediately. It has to be frustrating if you're Aaron Rodgers. It has to be frustrating if you're a Packers fan. And look, I understand at some point you have to trust Gutekunst and you have to trust Matt LaFleur and you have to trust Mark Murphy, the CEO. But I think for fans, sometimes it's a little bit harder than others when you look at where they finished last year, what did them in, and whether or not they've done anything to get over that San Francisco hurdle.
Right. I mean, I think those are real questions, let alone, you know, you have a quarterback who I don't think anybody would argue is still one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football. I don't care where you put him in that top 5, but I don't think anybody's going to argue that. You know, I always say, you know, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. Those are the top 5 guys in the game right now. You know what all those other 4 quarterbacks that I named in that top 5 have? They have, like, talented receivers, guys that scare the crap out of you. You know, and I know the Houston Texans traded away one of them, but they still got 2 other guys that are kind of scary and then traded and got another one for Brandon Cooks. So to me, it's almost just like disrespect. I can totally understand Aaron Rodgers being frustrated here. Hey, A.J. Dillon, the running back in the second round, he's a specimen. He's a real power back. Does he bring value to the offense? Certainly. The tight end you mentioned in the third round, the kid from Cincinnati, he's an H-back. They're trying to find Kyle Juszczyk, right? That type of player. Tight end, fullback, move him around, do those type of things. But I guess I just don't understand, again, the lack of support system around Aaron Rodgers at times to accentuate the greatness of him and make people so scared of your offense. If you just gave him one more weapon, it would bring that Packer offense to that level. And now it's kind of just like, oh, they're good. Yeah, I like it. But, man, Aaron's going to have to pull, a few rabbits out of the hat a few times during the year.
The recognizable names from the receiving core include Devontae Adams, Devin Funchess, he's a newcomer, Jake Kumaro,
Yep.
Alan Lazard, Darius Shepard, Equinemius St. Brown, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. The problem is one or two of those guys is always hurt, right? You never get the full healthy complement of the receivers, and that's a separate issue altogether. But there are no names there other than Adams that will strike fear, and I think for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers to do him justice, you need to have more than one guy like that, and to have 36 receivers drafted, 36 receivers, a year in which Ravens GM Eric DeCosta said you could find a starting receiver in round 5. How do you not just throw a dart on at least one of these guys just so you can go back to your franchise quarterback and say, we like this guy, we think he's going to make us better, and we're trying. We're trying to make your receiving core better.
Right. I mean, again, it's not that it has to blow you out of the water, but we used to sit here and go, man, Tom Brady's weapons aren't that great. And it was Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski were on the roster. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would get down his knees and kiss people's feet to have those two as receivers right now. You mentioned the names. Devontae Adams, certainly an awesome receiver. We know that. But after that, it is a lot of unproven commodities there. You said it. Alan Lazard, he showed some glimmers last year. Valdez-Scantling, he's shown some, spotty goodness here and there. Devin Funchess, he was a little underwhelming with the Carolina Panthers. He went to the Colts last year, got a big chunk of money. He got hurt. He didn't get to show. He is a guy that I do think will have value on this football team, certainly. But, yeah, I just don't know if there's anybody there that scares you. The draft is it was a confusing one. That's all there is to be said about it. I understand addressing the interior offensive line, but I just don't understand Green Bay being in the Super Bowl window right now.
Both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst addressed the elephant in the room now that there is a clock ticking, an expiration date applied to Aaron Rodgers given the presence of Jordan Love, whose rights they will control for a maximum of 5 years. So at some point in the next 5 years, presumably they're going to want to get a return on the field, not on the sideline, on the field for a guy they invested a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick to get. Here's what LaFleur had to say about the situation. Aaron is a pro. He's the leader of our football team, and I anticipate that for a really long time. I hope he can play until he decides he doesn't want to play anymore. He is the one that leads us out there. I know he's going to be a great mentor. I don't know how good of a mentor he's going to be because he may not want to be, right? Why do you want to help prepare the guy who, the more prepared he is, the more comfortable the team will be in floating you on an iceberg if you're Aaron Rodgers? So, look, they're saying what they have to say. They have to say this. They're not going to come out and say what some people are going to think is obvious from just looking at the names of the draft picks. They're planning for life without Aaron Rodgers, and the question is, when does that begin, Chris?
Yeah, well, and I think that's just too early. I think that's the thing that bothers me. I mean, again, I don't know if they're ever going to see any value or any assets in return for somebody like Jordan Love. That's what I don't understand. Again, we're in the era of quarterbacks play forever. Manning, Breeze, Brady, they're still playing. They're at a pretty high level. Rodgers takes care of himself. His arm, we know, is an all-time great arm. For anybody to sit here and think like, ooh, Aaron Rodgers still won't be dangerous like 3 or 4 years from now, that's insane. I just have a hard time believing that. So what are they going to do? Get rid of him then and then let Jordan Love come in as the quarterback for the 5th-year option year? Or is he just going to end up becoming trade bait like, a Jimmy Garoppolo where we go, well, we had him. He looked good holding the clipboard all these years. Good thing we wasted the first-round pick on him. That's what I just don't understand about this. And, Aaron Rodgers, he'll be a good tutor. I think he's going to be a good mentor to Jordan Love, Mike. I do. I think he kind of had it tough when he came up under Brett Favre. I've always heard Brett Favre didn't really treat him great at first until finally.
That's an understatement.
And right, you heard the same things, right? I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to do the same thing. But do I think Aaron Rodgers is going to try to stick it to the Green Bay Packers the first chance he gets, whatever way possible? Yes, I do.
Well, and you know what? He's going to have an incentive to mentor Jordan Love, because the sooner Jordan Love is ready, the sooner he can go somewhere else. So in a roundabout way, it helps Aaron Rodgers to help Jordan Love if the relationship at some level is now poisoned for Aaron Rodgers. And we know enough about him to know he's not going to be happy about this. He's going to stew about this. It's a normal human reaction, and he may want out of there before they want to move on. Here's what Brian Gutekunst said about Rodgers' future, and this comes from Peter King in Football Morning in America. I'm very hopeful Aaron continues to play at a high level for years to come. I know a lot of people are saying this puts a clock on Aaron, but I don't see that at all. We prioritize the quarterback position and have for a long time with this franchise. I remember one year in camp, they had Brett Favre, Ty Detmer, Kurt Warner, and maybe Mark Brunell. It's one of the most important positions in sports. If you don't have one, you can't win. I mean, let's be fair about this. Ty Detmer was not a good NFL quarterback, even though he was a great college quarterback. Nobody knew who in the hell Kurt Warner was at the time. Ditto for Mark Brunell. Just because a guy develops elsewhere doesn't mean that it was this jam-packed superstar quarterback room. Nobody knew it at the time, that it was this room of potential superstar quarterbacks. So I don't think that's an appropriate comparison. You mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, could the game here simply be we have Jordan Love in the event that Aaron Rodgers regresses? This is our insurance policy, and maybe after 3 years, maybe during that fourth year, maybe even during that fifth year, we can trade him and replenish the first-round pick. I mean, the Patriots got back a second-round pick, the same second-round pick they gave up to get Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe the Packers think they can get back their one at some point down the road for a Jordan Love who never plays. I don't know. I don't know what the mindset is. I don't know what the
right.
Is.
And what does that do? What does that do when you have Aaron Rodgers, when you're in the Super Bowl window and you have 4 to 5 years to capitalize on that for right now, right? I mean, that's where I don't understand it. I get it. I think you're right.
It makes you know better right now.
Exactly. It makes you know better right now. And, also when you just look at the contract situation for Aaron Rodgers in this too, I mean, realistically, just looking at it, I mean, there's no way Green Bay is going to let him go. Even in the 2022 season, Mike, he's still got – if they were going to release him or find some way to part ways, it's going to be over $17 million in dead cap money. I mean, that's going to be hard to swallow for a team anyway. So that would be year 4 for Jordan Love.
No, that's year 3. Let's year 3.
Year 3.
I got this all broken down.
Yes.
I've already, this is one of those, you know how they do the cooking show where they tell you the recipe and then they just pull the finished product out of the oven? Let me give you the finished product because I got the numbers here. If they would trade Aaron Rodgers right now, which they're not going to do, it's a $45.9 million cap charge this year. That's not going to happen. If they trade him after June 1, they would have $14.35 million hit the cap this year, $31.5 million hit the cap next year. That's not going to happen either. Next year, if they trade him before June 1, it's that same $31.5 million cap hit. Now, they could trade him after June 1 next year and split the cap hit over 2 years, although I don't see that transpiring. You mentioned the possibility of a 2022 trade. That's 2 years away. Cap charge of $17.2 million. That's really not all that much, assuming the salary cap is recovered from the pandemic by then. You'll have Jordan Love in year 3 of his rookie deal. So your total quarterback investment will be not all that out of whack because it's whatever Love is making plus $17 million at the top of the depth chart. I think they could deal with that. I think 2022 is the window to watch. Now, here's the problem. Can they get through 2 years of Aaron Rodgers being ticked off, being salty? I mean, are they hoping that this is almost like the Julian Edelman or it's the Wes Welker effect? I'm getting my undersized New England slot receivers confused. You always say that they like Wes Welker to get pissed off. Do they want Aaron Rodgers to get pissed off, and do they think he's going to find a higher level of performance the next 2 years because he's got this guy breathing down his throat? Almost like what happened to Tom Brady. We saw a rebirth from Tom Brady due in part to the fact that he had Jimmy Garoppolo hovering over his shoulder.
Well, there could be some, psychology to that. I don't doubt that. I don't think you draft a guy in the first round just to prove that point, though. I'll say that much. I can understand maybe wanting to bring somebody in that maybe just lights a little fire under his butt or just makes him feel a little uncomfortable about, man, this guy behind me's got a little talent, but the big thing is, do we know he's going to be pissed off? Of course we do. I mean, you said it, Mike. He's got a history like this. I love Aaron Rodgers. I know he'll be pissed off just from watching him over years. And then when your franchise left tackle, David Bakhtiari, comes out and basically says, oh, my gosh, Rodgers is going to be on fire. He's going to be pissed off at the world, basically. You better watch out for him. That tells you that is very real as far as the way Aaron Rodgers acts and what he portrays to the football team. So, yeah, he's going to be pissed. And I would think it's, I don't think you're going to have a lot of warm and cozy conversations between him and Goody and Matt LaFleur this year. I think he's going to be a little edge about him.
But that's the thing. Do you want that? Is it worth it to
get
him motivated to play at a higher level, but pissed off at everybody? Oh, and also be a good mentor to Jordan Love. I think this is a very difficult balance for anyone. And I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers. I feel bad that he's got to deal with this. Like, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, my reaction is, haven't I done enough since I became the starter in 2008 that you don't feel compelled to manipulate me, to play head games with me? Screw this. I want to play for a team that is happy to have me, that doesn't feel like it has to play these games to try to push my buttons to get me to play at a higher level. Is it not high enough? Would it not be a higher level if you use a first-round pick on a damn receiver instead of a quarterback who isn't going to play if I'm playing? I'd be upset, and I would want out if I was in Arizona. And I'm not trying to cause trouble here. This is a human reaction. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I don't want out in 2 years. I want out right now.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, at some point you just want some receivers around you like the other great quarterbacks in the history of the sport have had around them. I mean, Joe Montana, Steve Young, whether you go Brett Favre, Elway, you can just go down the list. At some point, they had big-time talent around them. Peyton Manning, of course, Tom Brady. They've had weapons. They've had difference makers. They seem to neglect that too often in Green Bay. They had it early on in his career, and it's like these last 4 or 5 years, they're just like, he's so good. Let's just make him carry the team, and we'll figure out ways to make the team better in other areas. Where I'm going to go, that's cool, but the team is not that great in these other areas for the fact that there's not a huge, great support system for Rodgers, too. So they're not really holding up their bargain on that end to where I go, oh, man, yep, he doesn't have a lot of great receivers, but that defense, it's a Super Bowl. No, it's not. It's good. It's solid. It's all it's ever been. So that's where I don't like it. And you're right, Mike. It just seems like they've opened up a can of worms here.
Ultimately, as human beings, we just want to feel appreciated. Regardless of what your job is, regardless of how much money you make, even if you're Aaron Rodgers at $32.5 million a year, you just want to feel appreciated. And I think coming out of this weekend, he has reason to not feel appreciated by the Packers. And he has reason to think they're trying to play some sort of game with him to try to stoke him into being a better quarterback when he should be able to look at his body of work and say, have I not been good enough? And speaking of appreciation, we appreciate Chris, who is watching the show in the UK. Greenwich Mean Time is the time zone, Chris. Now that I've heard it, it's like, yeah, I've heard that before, but I never would have remembered Greenwich Mean Time. But it's now 12:20.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.